We are live. Good evening, everybody. I welcome you all again to another live chat session hosted by me, Siddharth, and presented by the Madras Canine Club. Today we have with us Mr. Chandrasekhar, known to us all as Chandru in the dog game. He has been in the dog game for the past 29 years and he's been actively showing and breeding since 2003. He has bred close to around 75 champions under the prefix Changi's Kennels. He has made 9 multi-country champions as well today. Winner of the Breeder of the Year trophy for the year 2013-14 and winner of the Dachshund of the Year and the Dachshund of the Year Bred in India trophy for the current show season 2019-20. The Vice President of my club, Madras Canine Club, Kennel Club of India's life member and a licensed ring steward. Thank you, Chandru. Thank you for spending this valuable time, giving us this valuable time to talk about your favorite breed and my dad's favorite breed also, I should say. I should add this.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Siddharth, for having me on the show.
Absolutely a pleasure.
Definitely a pleasure to be on the show and, kind of share information among Dachshund enthusiasts. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Chandru, yes, there is, Dachshund, like as you say, all of you can you see, the topic is going to be the Wiener dog. Everybody refers to us as the Wiener dog and all you want to know about Dachshunds, and we have the perfect man to answer all your questions related to the breed. Let me start off with the simple questions so that our non-doggy people can actually understand what this breed is all about as well. Are Dachshunds hounds? First question that was asked actually by a lot of people. Are Dachshunds hounds? And why were this dog actually bred? I mean, every dog had a meaning and a purpose for its breeding to come into existence. What is Dachshund's history?
Okay. Dachs means badger in German and Hund means dog. So basically, since they were originally meant to hunt badgers to kind of go into tunnels and flush out badgers, they were kind of known as Dachshunds or the Wiener dog. Since they resemble a sausage, the name of sausage dog and the Wiener dog came into is part of the thing. And what were Dachshunds bred for? Originally meant to hunt small game, especially badgers. And miniature Dachshunds were bred over a period of time to hunt prairie dogs. So originally meant to hunt on the field, under the ground. And that's about why the Dachshunds were bred for.
So what is the history of Dachshunds in India? Like what was the history of Dachshunds in India? How did the breed get popularized here in India?
Okay. That's a very interesting question. When I started out in Dachshunds in 2006, I did a little bit of research before I went into Dachshunds. There have been stalwarts in the dog game like Mr. Pati, Mr. Sudarshan, who have all been great Dachshund enthusiasts and who've taken the game to a different level when they bred and showed Dachshunds. Nobody can forget the Sanskrit Dachshund, which went Dog of the Year years back. You can categorize the history of Dachshunds in India as before American champion Moffat's Jacket, which came in and did his contribution to the dog game. There are of course other dogs that also contributed like Uncle Sam Big Boss, and there are a lot of the other dogs, Sunny, Hina, Champion Horse, and all those dogs that actually contributed to the dog game back then. Then there was Case Copper Rock and all those dogs. That was the initial time when the Dachshunds were actually bred and were hugely, immensely popular. But back in 2006, when I started out in Dachshunds, they weren't as popular as then. But I think a great lot of effort went into the popularizing of Dachshunds by Mr. Padmachandra, the legend of Dachshunds.
Yes,
who's no more with us. It's a very big loss for us, but he is the man who actually renaissanced the dog game. He ensured he strived to uplift the Dachshund game in the southern part of India. So if you go into the history of Dachshunds, you can say the previous era and the current era. And in the current era, there have been great contributors like American champion Criss Cross Blackadder, which Mr. Venkatesh had brought in from America, Patparan Park's Valentino, which Mr. Raghuraman owned and used to great extent in breeding some fabulous Dachshunds. Devus Iqbal, Mr. Ashish Day had bred that dog, and a couple of other ones. And of course, mine, Australian champion, Jumanik Smooth Operator, CJ, who is my foundation of the kennel. So I think it can be, it would be nice to classify it as the previous era, which is the American champion Moffat's jacket era, and the current era, which is in the 2000, where, eminent breeders like Ashish Day, Raghuraman, Mr. Praveen, who's no longer in Dachshunds, but, Mr. Praveen, all of them, and of course me, got together in popularizing this breed. So that's the brief history in India. Of late, Dachshunds are very, very famous, and they are considered very winnable breeds in current dog show scenario.
Nice. Chandru, okay, there is a lot of difference in the FCI and the AKC breeds standards, I suppose, in terms of Dachshunds. Can you just briefly tell on this?
To quickly give you a brief on the different types of Dachshunds, there are totally 9 varieties of Dachshunds in 3 different coats. You have the standard, the miniature, and the Caninchin. The standard comes in standard wire, standard long, and standard smooth. So also the miniature wire, the miniature smooth, and the miniature long, and the Caninchin wire, the Caninchin smooth, and the Caninchin long. The UK Kennel Club and the American Kennel Club do not subscribe to the Caninchin variety as of now. They only go with the standard and the miniature variety. The Caninchin variety is what you call as the rabbit Dachshund. And Dachshunds come in totally 3 coats and 12 colors and 3 patterns, as recognized by the AKC.
Oh, okay. So, except for these differences, there are major differences in the breed.
In terms of size, yes. Standards, you would categorize them between 9 kgs and 12 kgs. The ideal weight for a miniature would be 4.5, 5 being allowed but not desirable. And as far as Caninchin, the male can be up to 3.5 kgs weighing, and the female can be up to 3 kg weighing. And you basically differentiate between a Caninchin and a miniature by measuring the circumference of their chest. So that's the difference of how you do it at 15 months of age.
Perfect. Chandru, okay, now in FCI, coming back, because we follow the we follow the FCI breed standards and the FCI rules. Why is Dachshunds a separate group called Tekel in FCI? Why do they get a special preference by giving them an entire group 4 where only they are there and no other breed is like part of it?
Well, if you go into finding out why the Dachshund got its separate breed prominence and, it was classified separately. If you go back into the personality of a Dachshund and its specifications, if you go into a subgroup of Dachshunds, say standard wires or wirehead Dachshunds, they have a lot of terrier blood in them, which leads them to do a lot of digging, and they're always very, wanting to be a little hyper and everything. So, terrier enthusiasts would have ideally liked the Dachshunds getting classified as terriers because, they have a lot of terrier instinct in them, wanting to hunt, wanting to be energetic, being very inquisitive. If you go into the long haired, there's a lot of spaniel blood in them. So, probably the spaniel, the standard long breeders would want them to be classified as gun dogs. And coming back to Dachshunds, I think they kind of originated from St. Hubert hounds, which actually are the basis of the current day bloodhounds and basset hounds. So the scent hound instinct in them is very prevalent, is very prominent. So I think which is why they have been kept as a separate group, because you can never you couldn't categorize them into group 6 in FCI, neither could you categorize them in the terrier group. So you needed a separate group with those special characteristics being given importance. So I think that's why they formulated the group 4 for the separate separately for the Dachshund.
Separately keep it aside and keep it aside. In relation to what we are talking about, we have one of our regular viewers, Mr. Dinker, asked a question about this. What is the correct proportion of standards for Dachshunds in regards to its length, etc.? Is FCI and AKC standards quite different in this area?
Yes, from the topmost point of the withers to the ground, as from the sternum to the back of the buttocks. It should be 1:2, and FCI specifies it as 1:1.7 or 1.8. But ideally, Indian people prefer dachshunds being a little bulkier and a longer,
Longer,
they
yeah.
like bigger versions of anything. So I guess 1:2 would be the right proportion. So
So
I
there is
think
a distinct, is there a distinct difference in the breed standards in terms of FCI and AKC, or is it almost the same?
see what actually, when you evaluate a dachshund, you go by the weight and the proportions. The
Okay.
standard, the AKC says 9 to 12 kgs permissible, whereas
Okay.
the FCI, would ideally prefer 9 kgs and 9.5 or 10 kgs. That being said, the proportion of the height also, 1/3 of the topmost point of the wither is what you would like to have as your ground clearance in FCI. So,
Okay.
whereas the AKC prefers low to ground dogs. So, I
Okay.
think there's a distinct difference between preferences in AKC and FCI. So, in short, for a layman understanding, I would say that AKC prefers a little bulkier stoic dogs, whereas
Okay.
FCI prefers a little more um, refined dogs, if I can put it that way.
Okay. Perfect. I think we are small. I think you're facing a small technical lag. Actually, I think but he's audible. Okay, moving on to the next question now. See, generally breeding. Is it a very difficult dog for you to breed? How difficult is it action to breed as such? Because generally smaller dogs have a difficulty in breeding. Does actions also face the same problem?
Well, for starters, Dachshunds aren't as difficult a breed to breed like your English bulldogs or various other breeds that need extensive care while whelping.
Okay.
Dachshunds are self-starters and they breed very well. Average Dachshund litter can be about 5 plus or minus 2, and in miniatures, it's usually 4 is a good number for miniature Dachshunds. Generally, Dachshunds are easy whelpers. They do not go into C-sections. But
Oh,
having said that, 13% of the overall Dachshund population that is bred generally do have a tendency to go into C-sections if they are miniature or Canincian. Why? Because the puppy does not fit into the birth canal of the dam. So it gets a little difficult for the puppy to come out,
okay.
which is your dystocia. You call it dystocia. And in miniatures, you have something called as eclampsia. Eclampsia is high blood pressure. The dam tends to get a little anxious and gets into a little high blood pressure syndrome, which is when the delivery is not normal. So
Okay.
dystocia and eclampsia can be two difficulties when you breed dachshunds. But having said that, over the years, I'm sure many of my colleagues in Dachshund breeding would agree that Dachshunds are very, very easy breeding, easy breed to breed, and they are excellent mothers at that.
Okay, great. Coming to this, there's another. We have another. One of our regular viewers and Manjunath. He's asked this question: how difficult are they to maintain as a dog in general? Are they an easy maintenance dog? Are they a little difficult in terms of maintaining as such?
Um, okay. I would be very partial when I'm answering this, very biased, but that's a fact. So I'll have to be very blatant about it as well. Over the years, I've had the opportunity to have a plethora of breeds, starting from Irish setters, golden retrievers, to Siberian huskies, to Salukis, to whatnot. But I have definitely found Dachshunds to be a very, very easy to breed to maintain, very
Okay.
easy breed to show, very easy breed to breed. They are extremely affectionate, extremely loyal, and very wanting to please. So, it makes the job a lot more easier when the breed wants to please you. So, I guess the maintenance of the Dachshund is very, very easy as compared to a lot of other hairy breeds or terrier breeds where you need to strip and groom and not allow matting and all that. I think Dachshund is a very, very easy breed to maintain.
So, Right, sir. There's one common problem in terms of medical this thing that we see with Dachshunds is skin. I think this is one of the this is one of the breeds that has actually got susceptible to a lot of skin allergies and skin related problems. Why is that? Why is this breed alone a very like have these kind of skin allergies and problems? Is there anything to do with?
See, if you compare a Dachshund, or a dog, to a human being, when you have a problem, allergen causing, you have an allergy causing syndrome. What you generally do tend to do is sneeze. That is the human version of showing that you're allergic to something. It could be pollen, it could be environment, it could be a food related allergy, anything. When it comes to dogs, they generally try to show it either through their skin, or they try to show it through their gastrointestinal problems. Dachshunds being low to ground and more susceptible to, they kind of love being in the soil, they love to dig, they love to, with the same soil legs, they love to scratch when they're getting itching. So I think that the Dachshunds are more vulnerable to skin problems and allergies because owing to this particular reason in dogs. And they have a very in terms of smooth haired Dachshunds, they have a very sensitive skin, where in case if they are allergic to especially the ground that they are squatting on or sitting on or playing, and to an extent the food and the environmental factors, the allergy tends to immediately show off or showcase on the skin in terms of blisters, in terms of rashes, losing of hair, thinning of hair, and the a host of factors.
Yeah.
So I think that's why Dachshunds are more prone to skin allergy.
Oh, okay. So this is one of the major reasons as such. There's nothing. There's no. Is there any? I won't say genetical issues, but there's nothing related to.
If you want to dwell more deeper into it, I would say because possibly the Dachshund being a stress-oriented breed, it can get a little stressed.
Okay.
And which can cause Cushing's. Cushing's is a thing where your adrenal gland starts to secrete cortisol a lot. When the cortisol gland gets secreted a lot, that again causes a lot of skin related stuff.
Okay.
They tend to start itching, they tend to start eating hyper, they don't know what they're doing. That leads to a lot of skin allergy.
Okay. We have another question from one of our regular viewers, Rushi, you also know him quite well. Good evening. I have seen almost all Dachshunds have an arch in their front leg starts from ankle. I want to know how much arch is okay or straight from a front leg. Perfectly from the straight from a front leg.
Okay. Earlier, all the original Dachshund always had an arch in the front legs. It was basically because as he was digging the ground, the mud goes to either side of the Dachshund and doesn't come back on him. So that was the whole idea of the arch in the front legs. So that when you dig, the mud goes to both the sides. Over a period of time, the legs tend to start getting straight, with the breeding being a little, people started preferring straight legs. But what amount of arching is allowed? I think possibly a minor deviation to about, instead of 90 degrees, the leg being perpendicular to the ground. At the hocks, I would say possibly about 85 degrees, 87 degrees, 85 degrees to an extent, because nowadays you don't allow the Dachshunds to actually do a lot of working. So the tendency to use the arch doesn't actually occur nowadays, except in North America or America, where they still do the earth dog thing and all that. So I think the front leg arching is a perfectly normal thing. I've had certain people ask me whether the arching is allowed. Is the leg gone for a toss? Is the leg having a problem and all? This is not to be confused with knuckling over. Knuckling over is where your front legs tend to bend a little in the forward because of malnutrition or poor nutrition. This has nothing to do with knuckling over. It is perfectly fine to have arched legs in Dachshunds.
Perfect. Coming to another question, Chandru, like in the sense, how much do you actually feed a small dog like a Dachshund? Because and in regards to this also, how do you rear or wean Dachshund puppies, or how do you bring out? I mean, how do you get a puppy out which is like healthy and normal after the period of after the birth, which is in well?
I would strongly recommend 3 to 4 times feeding for Dachshund puppies, staggered over the day.
Okay.
And when it comes to adults, I would prefer 2 times a day, twice a day. I generally prefer going for a dry food, which is any good dry commercial food, which suits individual to individual, owner to owner, dog to dog. Having said that, if you want your dogs to kind of get ready for shows or want to be a little healthy, it's always good to add a additional vitamin supplement, mineral supplement of your personal choice to the dog. Dachshunds generally are very, very voracious eaters. They are very, very, I would say, avaricious in what they want. They want everything. So I think it's very important for the owner to control the diet to an extent. And how I use a thumb rule is, when the stomach of the Dachshund resembles, when it's small, it resembles a small rounded lemon, is
Okay.
meaning that the Dachshund has eaten full. As the
Oh,
puppies grow up, if the Dachshund at no point of time should look like it's overweight after eating. So that
okay.
means that the Dachshund has eaten enough. The amount of grams, differs from person to person, and the number of times of intake, the food intake that you want to give the Dachshund. So
So, I mean, but these dogs also have a natural tendency, or I've seen a lot of dogs. I mean, seen Dachshunds that actually put on a lot of weight faster than other dogs. As such, is this something to do with their eating habit, or is it that people feed the dog wrongly, or what is the reason for this? Because they tend to put on weight faster than the other breed.
see, unlike many breeds that I have personally had the experience of having in the past, as compared to Dachshunds, Dachshunds are one breed that when you put on weight, is very difficult to get it off them. It really takes a lot of effort to get it off them. And Dachshunds are always a little hyper, and they want to eat anything that's available. And like I said before, I mentioned, you know, passingly mentioned that possibly because the stress hormone, the adrenal gland re- releasing more of cortisol, which actually creates a hunger in them, which is why they start eating a lot of thing that causes a lot of dogs to become obese over a period of time if not controlled and corrected initially.
So you
So
say
that,
that. So what you say is, if a dog becomes overweight, is it easy for the owner to reduce the weight later on by controlling the diet or giving some prescribed diet, or is it a lost cause on bringing down the weight of a dog?
see, where there's a will, there's a way, Siddharth. Once the dog becomes obese, if you really put in effort by giving a less protein diet, where you give a lot of exercise to the dog,
Okay.
you kind of burn the energy in the dog by playing with him, giving him exercise, feeding him correctly, lots of water to burn the fat, and
Oh, okay.
that I think helps, because there are they unless you've reached the extreme where the Dachshund can barely walk and it has become so obese, and has a host of health ailments that you can't correct it. Then I think even midway through you can correct it.
So
I
what is
don't.
the Okay. So what is the amount of exercise that you give a dog like that? So how much exercise would you ideally give a dog like a smaller breed like that?
I've had the opportunity to visit a couple of top kennels across the world, including Hacienda and Malaysia, and I have seen their method of exercising. They walk the dog both in the morning and in the evening, and they try to walk uphill in certain times to kind of build on the resilience of the action. So I would ideally feel about a kilometer or two in the morning and a kilometer or two in the evening is more than enough. If you're unable to do it, and you have a small play area or a garden in front of your house, and you leave your Dachshunds to play there extensively, I think couple of hours, say 3-4 hours of playing, definitely helps burn the energy in the Dachshund. I think it keeps them a lot fit. And of course, you can do your ball throwing exercise and all that, but that's actually not needed when you actually walk the Dachshund and exercise and allow it to play. There is no need for anybody to. I think this is a very interesting thing which I want to share with the breeders. I see a lot of people these days training, holding the Dachshund and trying to move it in a vehicle, in a two-wheeler. They feel running helps the Dachshund. Instead of, that's their version of a treadmill or their version of keeping a Dachshund. While I have nothing against it, I have had the incidences of the back legs tending to become a little weaker when they are actually cycled or motorcycled. So I would request earnestly that Dachshund breeders walk the dogs. You walk fast, fast-paced. You allow the dog to play, but never make a Dachshund run. We are not here for a running race. Certainly not.
That's true. That's true. In related to the line of questions that we are asking, Ms. Preeti asked, do you need to give any extra supplements for the skin with the feeding? I mean, does it help?
Every breeder has his own secret formulas for getting their Dachshunds in shape and dogs in shape. Like every other breeder, I also have my own system where, we definitely need to give supplements. It helps a lot. I have seen it help a lot with my own dogs. So I would suggest giving it a supplement every day, depending on your dog's necessity or whatever it needs. It depends on what your individual dog needs. But yes, as a breeder, I definitely recommend extra supplements for the skin, because the skin, when you show a Dachshund, it's a very straightforward breed. You're not showing an American well-groomed cocker, or you're not showing an Irish setter or a golden retriever or a well-plucked schnauzer or a terrier. So it's a very straightforward breed, and the judge definitely expects the coat to be in glowing condition. So I have personally felt that, giving vitamins and supplement helps in the Dachshund skin being a lot more glowing, and that helps in your winning. To a great extent.
Moving on to another question, you were talking about the Canadian and the rabbit Dachshund, right? So this is related to that. What is the Canadian rabbit Dachshund, and how are they different, and why are they not popular in India? One, and we also have another question related to that asked by Mr. Sudarshan. Why aren't even miniature Dachshunds not popular that much in India? So can you throw a light on this? Because everybody seems to be only loving and having standard Dachshunds, because I haven't seen a long-haired Dachshund been shown in a very long time. I have seen long-haired Dachshunds, but off late there's nothing there. There were like few wire hairs which were shown some time back. Now everybody's gone to the standard Dachshund smooth. Why is the other breeds not that popular in India?
Firstly, thank you, sir, for the question. And the Dachshund legend asking this question, it means a lot to me. So coming to answering your question, Siddharth, in India, we've definitely had Dachshund long-haired in the past, especially in Calcutta with Mr. Javed Pasha and Mr. Philip John and others having brought in long-haired Dachshund. But for some strange reason, nobody has taken the effort to continue breeding good quality long-haired Dachshund. There are some very nice, one or two odd, very good long-haired Dachshunds still in Calcutta. They still breed very nice long-haired Dachshunds, but for some reason they don't come out for the shows, much for the shows. Having said that, coming back to the Caninchin Dachshund, when you say, like I said before, the Caninchin Dachshund, the male should not exceed 3.5 kilos and the female should not exceed 3 kilos as per the standard. The circumference of the chest is measured at about 15 months. It's very ideal to be lesser than 30 centimeters for the Caninchin, and for 30 to 35 centimeters for the miniature. There's a very marginal difference between a miniature and a Caninchin. The miniature, like I said before, the max would be 4.5 kgs allowed weight and 5 kgs, which is allowed but not desirable. Caninchin essentially means rabbit in German. So basically, these miniature type Dachshunds were bred to hunt and flush out rabbits from burrows. So, which is why the Connections came into existence. But of late, they have become excellent companions, are growing in demand in Europe and Russia and other Scandinavian countries. And coming to Sir's question, why is it miniature Dachshunds are not kept by dog lovers? I think there are a couple of ones that have come into the country recently, and I'm sure that there are a couple of ones that are going to more of them coming into the country with people preferring Dachshunds more over the years. But having said that, I think India as a country has always preferred bigger things, bigger dogs, bigger cars, bigger houses, and so bigger standard. You
Because
know, I think anything bigger appeals to them rather than something smaller. They feel that it's not doesn't showcase their enormity or doesn't showcase their thing. So having said that, I think Dachshunds, miniature Dachshunds are very, very nice breeds to keep. A lot of it's very interesting to note that in UK the number of miniature Dachshund breeders have increased as against the standard Dachshund breeders.
oh,
And
nice.
even in USA, they are growing in popularity. And if you take across the, um, uh, dog shows in the Euro Dog Show, the Russian Dog Show, and all other dog shows, the important dog shows which happen, miniatures and Connections are definitely giving the standards a run for their money. And I'm
Oh,
sure that Indians will take a cue from that, and over a period of time will definitely
oh,
more of
yeah.
miniature actions and breed. It's actually much easier to keep. You can keep more numbers. They're very, very easier to look after, except there, of course, you need to be cognizant of the health issues that come with them. But having said that, I'm sure that, with Sir asking that question, I'm sure a lot of people will take the cue and import more in miniature Dachshunds. I, for one, have definitely taken the cue, and let's see what I can do about it.
Yeah, we would like to see more different breeds in Group 4. Let's not be
Having
let's
categorized
not,
the separate group, I think it's
yeah.
only justice that you have more varieties to
No
judge from.
varieties. That is true. That is true. We'll go on to another technical. Now, I won't say a technical question, but a question asked by one of your fellow readers as well, Mr. Raguraman. Dachshunds are considered as a front dog. What about hinds? Weak hinds are tolerable? Question mark. What kind of angulation hook? Second high. Second high. Okay. What is your recommendation?
Firstly, thank you, Raghu, for having come on the show and bringing up this question. Raghu has been a great contributor to the Dachshund world in India today, and he's been part of why Dachshunds are still very popular in India at the moment with his Raghu's Dachshunds. So, having said that, Dachshunds are definitely considered a front dog, but about the hinds, I have discussed this in the past with Raghu also. But since the question is put up, I would want to answer that. I feel that a lot of people in India, a lot of breeders are concentrating on the front. The upcoming breeders are preferring pigeon chest. They think the Dachshund should have an enormous chest, a pigeon chest, and they are not concentrating on the back portion of the Dachshund, which leads to the Dachshund hind not being able to balance the heavy front, which in turn makes the hind weak.
Okay.
So, are weak hinds tolerable? No. As sincere ethical breeders, we should not be tolerating weak hinds. And definitely the hinds tend to go in for, the back legs tend to go in for cow hawking, which again is an issue. And as ethical breeders, we shouldn't be subscribing to that. Kind of angulations, the 7 is always the one that is recommended. You definitely don't want a straight leg back, and you don't want a straight arched uh, bend of stifle. You want the bend of stifle to be very adequate. And of course, the Raghu's question says second thigh. What would you recommend, sir? So second thigh is very, very important for a Dachshund. There are a lot of people who don't give importance to the second thigh because they are very happy with the front, that they only keep seeing about the Roman nose, the head, the expression, the pigeon chest, the substance in the front, that the back portion tends to be totally overlooked. I wouldn't want to, pinpoint somebody or something, but I think that there's a growing incidence of this in India. And as fellow breeders, I think it's very important for us, especially when Dachshund is scaling in popularity, to look at this. Hinds are very, very important, and weak hinds are intolerable for a good Dachshund because it affects your movement, it affects your gait, and it affects the overall health of the Dachshund, which is far more important than your shoes. So I think that's very important.
Moving on to a very general question, Chandru. Like since you have been breeding these dogs for a very long time, how easy is asked by one of our one of our viewers? How easy is it to housebreak a Dachshund? One, are they a good pet for an apartment type of a house, and how are they with children as such? I mean, do they have any? I mean, is it an aggressive dog as such? It's not trained properly, or how?
See, like all other dogs, Dachshunds are also dogs. Firstly, they they are aloof and they are a little standoffish.
Okay.
Having said that, it's very important when you're socializing a Dachshund that either the child in the house is young or the Dachshund puppy is young. One of the two definitely needs to be young because you can never predict the nature of a Dachshund. So if the puppy is young, then you get to socialize the Dachshund better. And when you housebreak a Dachshund, if they are puppies, it's a lot easier.
Okay.
I generally socialize my puppies starting from 7 weeks to about, I categorize them as two periods. 7 weeks to 6 months is the first period when you actually socialize the Dachshund so that he gets a lot used to the environment, the sound, the light, the strangers, the members of the family, people who keep coming in and out of the of the residence or the place where he is. And the second thing is when the adolescent period socializing, which is essentially between 6 to 9 months it starts and it goes up to a year or 3 years. Certain actions tend to take as long as 3 years to get mature. The
Okay.
adolescent period goes up to that, and this is the period actually which can make or break the um, personality of a Dachshund in making him a cheerful animal as compared to a weak, scared animal. And if you're not going to correct the behavior of a Dachshund initially, the tendency to biting definitely is very, very evident in a Dachshund breed. So, as to housebreak Dachshunds is quite easy, like any other dog. It's just that you have to put a little bit of effort. They just generally are a little um, you know, I would say, I wouldn't say smart. They are smart, but I would say that it's up to you to how you balance and kind of socialize and train and housebreak a Dachshund. If you do it well, then the gain is there for you till the Dachshund lives with you. If you tend to make a mistake or you tend to take it a little carelessly, the attitude goes on till the entire lifelong lifespan. So that's all.
Okay. There's one common question that I keep getting in my comment section as well. How to choose the perfect breed in the Dachshund as such? This is one person who's asked. Jeffrey, he's asked this question, and another gentleman also has asked, how do you choose the right breed in the Dachshund family as such?
Okay. So if we are talking about, if I understand the question well, are they trying to ask that
The different,
somebody going for a smooth or a long or a
yeah,
wide? Is
exactly,
that the question? Okay.
yeah,
So if for starters, if you among the three breeds, the standard long, owing to the spaniel blood in them, are considered the most docile of the three varieties. They're very
okay,
adjustable and they come as very affable and amiable, and they're quite easy. Considering the terrier blood and the other influences that have been on the wire hair, they are kind of hyper. They kind of they can display a different kind of trait and personality if not looked after well. The standard smooth is the balance between the three. Having said that, for starters, it depends on the amount of time that one can invest in looking after a Dachshund that goes to that goes to your choosing the breed. If you have all the time in the world, if you have kennel help, if you have the right kind of support system, standard logs can definitely be a glamorous breed to keep. You should ensure that you don't allow the coat to get matted. You should ensure that the coat on the tail is taken care of and all that. If you are wanting a more flamboyant, flashy breed to show with a lot of spirit in them and you have the time for grooming, then standard wires can be the breed for you, because they are very, very showy breeds, like the Crufts winner. You've seen it recently. They're very showy breeds. Standard smooth are the breed for everyone. It is like your standard bread butter jam. It can go with anybody. It's the
Okay.
easiest of the three breeds. Whether it's your standard smooth or your miniature smooth, it's the easiest that you can keep and happy to show with, and you can happy to travel with for shows and otherwise. So I would recommend, for the Indian weather conditions, you take into account the weather conditions of the place where you stay, the time you have to allocate for the dog, the back the support system that you have in place for grooming and other things, before you kind of choose the breed in the Dachshund. So
Okay.
I, for one, I'm a little busy, so I haven't had the time to
To go
look
into
into. I did have a standard long and a mini long which I got from abroad, but somewhere down the line, the heart always kept beating for the standard smooth.
standards.
So I think it's all about individual preferences.
We have a couple of questions in related to shows and show rings as such. First question in that line of category is asked by Mr. Dubey. How much importance would you give to the bite? Also, we see the actions running in the ring. Is this the correct way of the judges correct way to judge the movement? One. The second question is asked by Mr. Sudarshan. That is, how does the FCI judge view an English bred action, vice versa?
Okay. Do I go with Zoheb's question first?
Yeah, you can take it one at a time. So you can now start with Zohaib's question.
Okay. So, coming to Zoheb's question on the bite, as a breeder, and more so being in India, which is a full FCI country, I give a lot of importance to the bite. I definitely want a scissor bite in the Dachshund, which is quiet to the jaw, which is strictly overlapping with the canines placed into one into the other, and the 42 teeth being perfectly in alignment. So I definitely want my teeth in place for the Dachshund. I wouldn't compromise, though abroad level bites are tolerated in Dachshunds but are not desirable. I feel, being an FCI country, it is more important for us, because FCI emphasizes on correct scissor bite. So I think we should just go with the scissor bite and not compromise on anything else. And coming to Dachshunds running in the ring, I think, people are so used to running with the Dobermans and boxers, the working breeds, they don't understand that Dachshunds are not meant to run.
Exactly.
They are meant to run and play in the field or when they are hunting, but they are certainly not expected to run in the ring. A lot of people, I would want a point made here, because a lot of people, why do they resort to running, is a question that we need to introspect. People who invariably resort to running, I'm one for one against running in the ring. But having said that, a lot of people resort to running because they generally want to avoid, or they think they are very clever in avoiding the judge from seeing the the lacunae in their dog's back portion, the back side of the dog, or the back legs, or the hocks, or the a faulty gait or a movement or whatever. They actually think, but the judge is never going to do that. The judge is always right in his judgment. So they think they're camouflaging the limitations in the dog by running. And second thing, they think that when they run with the dog, it looks a lot glamorous. And I've seen a lot of people in India in certain regions who run with the Dachshunds, which is not at all called for. You actually move the Dachshund to see the movement, to see the proportion in the Dachshund, and to see the overall picture of the Dachshund. By running, you do not give the judge an opportunity to actually evaluate your Dachshund. So I think the running is definitely not on the cards. Is that the correct way to judge the movement? I think knowledgeable judges do not allow the Dachshunds to run. We are definitely not here for a relay race or a running race. We are here for a dog show, to enjoy the dog show, to show the dog. So I think moving the dog up and down and going in a circle or a triangle, whichever the judge prefers, in a very, very simple, steady pace, which the judge wants you to. Each judge has their preference. There are judges that want, FCI judge would probably want slow paced. whereas an Australian or American judge would want them to go at a steady pace to see whether everything is in synchronization. So, having said that, I think it's the judges, and at the end of the day, we definitely need to understand that the judges are right and the judge's decision is right. So, is there a correct way to judge the Dashin movement? It's the judge's preference. It's his eyes that are going to see the action, and he would like it a specific way, and he would like the dog to move at a certain pace to understand that. So I think the judge's decision is final. And coming to Sir's question, how does an FCI judge view an English bred action and vice versa? Recently, I had this very peculiar incident that happened at one of the shows. I wouldn't want to mention which show. I had a FCI judge, European judge, judging my action, which was totally American and Australian, or whatever you call it, English or whatever you call it, but definitely not European. So he loved the action. He evaluated the action on the table, and he said, "I love the action. The proportions are excellent. The handling is excellent. Everything about the dog is excellent. But we prefer the FCI type, and this is an FCI show. So it's very, very normal that the FCI judge has a preference and doesn't prefer a English type of Dachshund, or the subsidiary of an English type Dachshund which has evolved, which is the American and the Australian, which Sir is actually mentioning here. But the same judge actually placed me in the lineup in another show. So that's a totally different question altogether. But it depends on judge to judge and their personal preference. But generally, I have observed as a breeder, handler, owner, that FCI judges are very critical in today's scenario on an English type of Dachshund.
Okay.
They are very, very critical, that they are very, very vocal about it in the ring, that they say that being an FCI country, they would like to see the dog exhibiting more of FCI characteristics. Okay. So it's all about individual preference. I know a lot of European breeders who prefer AKC type Dachshund. So it's all about preference. So I think FCI judge view an English Dachshund, I think they should rather stick to the overall qualities of the dog rather than looking at the type that they are used to and they like.
Judge the dog
what it is, rather than judging it by the FCI rule book.
Yes, true. We have another question in regards to this. How serious fault is a kinked tail?
King tail is definitely a major fault in a Dachshund. An eminent breeder who taught me a lot of things told me that it takes 5 generations to eradicate a genetic fault in a dog, and king tail is one of the genetic faults that happens. So I wouldn't want anybody having a king tail to probably breed from them, because you're passing on the gene every time. And as you know, the tail is an extension of the spinal cord, and it keeps tapering down to the last bone. And the spinal cord is a very, very important feature in a Dachshund, and it can make or break a Dachshund. So as an FCI country and as a breed connoisseur, I would definitely not recommend a king tail. It's a serious fault. I wouldn't want people to breed from king tail specimens, because you're not contributing to the breed in any way. You might get good puppies when you breed out of a king tail, but you're definitely carrying over the gene, and that's detrimental to the breed.
Okay. Chandru, what would be your recommendation for a person who is getting into actively showing or actively breeding Dachshunds? Because one of our viewers has also asked the same question in terms of that. So what is your recommendation for somebody who wants to get into this into this breed as such? What would you do?
For starters, unless you have researched enough about the Dachshund breed in terms of genetics, in terms of health ailments, in terms of lines, in terms of coming to a conclusion on what type or variety of Dachshund you actually want to get into, because you can't end up doing all the 9 varieties at home. You will have to be practical in doing possibly 1 or 2 varieties at best. So there's a lot of introspection and back-end homework that needs to go in before you decide on the Dachshund as a breed and the variety that you choose to. That is like any other dog. I think a lot of homework has to go in. Dachshund, like I said before, it's a very easy breed to keep. But as much as it's an easy breed to keep, if you're getting seriously into the breed, I think you will have to do a lot of homework into the breed in terms of lineage, in terms of health faults, in terms of breeding issues. That's a lot of introspection that is required. Coming to showing Dachshunds, um, I think as compared to many other breeds, Dachshunds are easier to show because they are a very straightforward breed. Like instead of writing an essay in history or writing a essay in English, when you do maths, you have the chance of getting 100 on 100. So Dachshunds are straightforward breeds where you breed them correctly, you show them correctly, you handle them correctly, and they perform well. It's like a max paper. You tend to score 100 on 100. So on that front, they are very showy breeds. They are more than willing to please the owner. So I would recommend people, if they want an easy breed to start with, I would say Dachshunds are easier. And if you do not have the backup system or you do not have knowledge on grooming and conditioning a Dachshund, I would suggest that you go in for a smoother variety, depending on the space and time that you have, whether it could be a standard, it could be a Caninchin, or it could be a miniature, and then progress from there. Take it on from there. And if you can show me the question one more time, I think
Yeah, I mean, that is what is generally asked because it's a very long question. I won't be able to like display it for a very long time. So this is he's asked about what are the tips that you would
what
give
are
for
their
income?
future plans with the breed?
Yeah, that is
And what
also.
would be your suggestions to the newcomers who love the breed and aim to grow with the breed? And lastly, when a breeder entrusts upon a client and offers him a show specimen, what actually does he expect in return? Okay, lovely 3 questions. So if you can show me the question one more time, I'm going to split it in parts.
Yeah, no.
What are your future plans with the breed? Um, I think I'm very patriotic at heart. I'm very patriotic at heart, and I love Mother India, and I'm very happy that I was able to put uh, India on the Dachshund map in America by going number 5 in 2018. I would have loved to go higher up, but then dog shows have their own nitty-gritties and everything associated with it, so I couldn't push it up from 5. But definitely, it was a great breakthrough, breaking into the top 10 in any breed in USA. I think the first Indian to do that in any breed, especially from 2 bred in India parents, and first Asian to breed a silver grand champion in Dachshunds. So that was my contribution to USA. Having done that, I think my next site would rather be on Dachshund Club of America. I definitely want to send the right Dachshund up there, and I definitely want to compete in the Crufts. It's been a childhood dream to compete in Westminster Crufts and DCA. DCA I've done already. I did go winner's dog in the host national show, winner's dog and award of merit. But I think Crufts and Westminster would be my next goalpost. I definitely want to do that bit to India. I definitely want world to see that there are a lot of Indian breeders, not alone me. That like I said before,
Yeah, I
Ashish,
would like to.
and there are a lot of people who actually want to contribute to the breed. They've been doing fabulously. They've been exporting the actions to other countries, and I think Mr. Padman always envisioned that India should be on the global map. I think we are heading right there. I'm sure we'll be able to do justice. That's on what I see in future for the action. As regards, I think when a breeder gives a Dachshund to a client, I wouldn't want to call them a client. I would say a puppy owner. You give
pet parent.
a pet parent. That's a beautiful word. A pet parent. You actually entrust a piece of yourself to them. Hours of hard work, hours of studying, hours of whelping, innumerable days of not sleeping, mothering the puppies, growing them up, conditioning them, giving them to a prospective pet owner. You actually give a piece of yourself to them, a part of your legacy, a part of your passion, a part of your dream. But what happened? I'm very happy in this regard that KCI, on its part, brought a beautiful decision recently that there won't be. It wouldn't allow people to prefix or affix their own kennel names to a breeder's name. That's a Herculean thing that KCI has done for the breeder segment, because a lot of people these days just don't want to even mention your kennel prefix or affix. They just want to take the credit by mentioning the dog's name.
That's
It really pains and hurts, because you don't want the glory. You're happy for them, which is why you have entrusted them with such good dogs, and they are doing very well for themselves. You want to applaud their efforts, but they kind of, at times it's a little, I would say, short-sightedness, or a little, I would say, I don't know how to put it across, but it's very hurting and hurtful when you actually don't give the due
I
to a
understand,
breeder, and you actually put the dog's name and you don't put the prefix name on the dog. At the end of the day, a owner, when he breeds, should understand that from an owner, he's also becoming a breeder, and he's going to face the same problem, and he's also going to get pained over the days to come. So I wouldn't recommend that for anybody. I don't do it personally. I always give my breeders their due. So I would request all puppy owners and all dog enthusiasts to give the same thing, because breeders are giving their everything to you. So it's not about the money that you pay for the puppy. It's a lot more than just the money.
that's
So
yeah.
I would use this
Yeah,
forum.
you're buying a dog. Yeah, you're actually buying a pet. You don't you want them to.
Like you said,
know that.
you expect that from a pet parent.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Chandru, we are running out of time. I would like to end this with the last question. Which is your all-time favorite tax?
Tough
Okay,
question.
I will put it in two ways. Your all-time favorite action that you have bred and shown, and an all-time favorite action overall that you've seen been shown in the ring.
Okay. Uh, okay. I'm going to quickly answer this question. In India, if I were to go with my breeding action, I think there's this particular three dogs that I would put my hands on. One is Thai champion, Indian champion Chanji's New Yorker, which is the best in specialty show. One of the best actions that I bred, but unfortunately I let go of him. The current American Silver Grand Champion that I'm showing, Chanji's Ride My Ducati, would be the second one that I bred. And the third one that I bred would probably be Chanji's Fuchsia, which is a puppy which is getting into her prime of showing. These are three actions that I would put my hand on my breeding. As for other people's breeding, I'm very fond of Pat Paranpak's Wilson, which I owned and handled, which went on to become a grand champion, bred by the legend Mr. Padmachandran. I also loved Pat Paranpak's Valentino, owned by Mr. Raghu. Devus Iqbal, that was another lovely dog that I loved a lot. Beautiful movement, beautiful proportions. There was yet another dog in Calcutta which I liked, but I didn't see him much after that, which was called Zuzu.
Okay.
That also was very appeasing to me. Abroad, I would put my hands on Jaggy's Sunkissed Phoenix, Diagram Have Gun Will Travel, and Ladland Wing and a Prayer, which is considered the father of current date action. And I would be failing in my duty, of course, Crisscross Blackadder, which is where I am today, owned by Mr. Venkatesh. Crisscross Blackadder has immensely contributed to the breed in India, one of the finest producers. So, the dogs have been spread among a lot of people, so the breed is growing. So
That's nice. That's nice. Yeah. You would love to see quality dogs getting shown in a dog show where I mean, people love to come and see a lot of dogs, and again, a lot of good quality dogs getting shown. Yes, as I said, the more the breeders, the better the breeders we have who can breed good dogs, the better the show ring, and the better the breed also will evolve. And as I said, like everybody wants India to come on the world map, and I think you are all of all of you and your colleagues together are in the right forward, I suppose. So keep it up. Thank you so much, Chandru, for joining us, giving us this valuable 1 hour to talk about your favorite breed, basically. So it was a lovely
Thank you
session.
so
Thank you for all the information.
Thank you so much, Siddharth. Thank you so much for giving Dakshan so much of importance and creating a session for Dakshan lovers like me. I'm sure that along with all my fellow breeders, colleagues, we are already on the verge of putting Dakshan on the global map from India. I'm sure we will definitely cross more milestones in the years to come. So thank you so much. And thanks once again to all the viewers who asked the questions. Thank you.
We have a lot of other questions. I'm sorry, viewers, if you're not able to answer all your questions, but Mr. Chandru will definitely leave answers for the offline questions. He is a very tech-savvy person, so he is available on most of the social media platforms like Facebook and Insta and stuff. So you can always reach out to him if you have any breed-related questions or any breed-related questions in regards to the actions. He's one of the man you can actually ask a question to. So you can always reach out to him, and he's one of the most helpful people that I've seen. So he will be able to like answer your questions and help you in all ways. And we will get back. I mean, we will come back to you again with another interesting topic next week for sure. Stay tuned. Or the need of the hour is basically to stay home, stay safe. I suggest that everybody stay home and stay safe, and let's fight this pandemic together. Thank you so much, and thank you so much, Chandru.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Namaste.